Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Jason and the Gentleman. Josh, can you believe it's episode 30? We've done this show for 30 episodes now since we started towards the end of last year.
30 weeks, eh? Yeah, wow. I didn't seem like I would have said we're on like 15, but 30. Wow.
Nope. We've only had like a handful of breaks
Yep.
and took last week off. Obviously, you were recuperating, coming back from your fight with Bellator against Rafion Stotts. And first of all, how was the trip back? And I'm sure you were stoked to see the family.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we were talking about that just before this. It was 5 weeks. I was gone, man. So it was a long time. Longest I've been away from them. It sucked for sure, but happy to be home. And it was fine on the way home. The whole border, bullshit. We've actually flew into Buffalo, and then we just walked across. So it's just easier than going through the Toronto, circus over there. So we did that, and it was fine. They were cool about it, but it was just I'm glad to be home, man. It sucks that we can't really do anything right now. I mean, we're home, but like nothing's open. But yeah, it's good to see the family, man.
Yeah, welcome back to Canada. It's been a while for you dealing with lockdowns and whatnot in this wonderful province of Ontario. I guess, first of all, we should say shout out to your wife because she was holding down the situation at home for you while you were gone those 5 weeks.
Yeah, big shout out to her. Yeah, she's she's been great. And she, during all this, like right before I got back, she got vertigo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's still dealing with that. So it's been a rough couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks. So yeah, big thanks to her. She's been great.
Yeah, so I messaged her after your fight, and she was pretty strong about it, like realizing the result wasn't what you wanted, but
Yeah.
You didn't come home too banged up, maybe a little cut on your head. And I know you did come home in a sling, but you said to me off air, let go of the sling today.
Yeah. No, I'm fine, dude. Yeah, I had a little cut on my forehead. It's actually first time in 24 pro fights that I've had a cut. I mean, when I fought Lapis, I had a little cut on the back of my head, but never, keep the good. But yeah, and then in the first round, I think I'm pretty sure it was the first round. I blocked a kick, body kick, and just like when you posture up and just take it on the arms rather than the body, like I always do, but. It just felt like it didn't really hurt. Obviously, in fights, I broke my hand twice. And it doesn't really hurt, but I could just feel that it was like it felt really tight, and it felt like kind of fatigued. Like it was like my arm was a little bit like they're just tired. My forearm. It felt like I just did like forearm curls for a while or something like that, But it didn't hurt at all. And I mean, it did it have an effect on the fight? Probably not. Definitely didn't help anything. But yeah, it was. It was one of those fights that was just kind of like frustrating and awkward and couldn't really get anything going with him. And there was really no rhythm, no flow. He's good. Obviously I had trouble dealing with his range. He had I didn't realize I think he had a 6-inch reach on me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of hard to deal with to get in there. Cause he kept a good range. I mean, anytime I did, it kind of explode in, he would be out. The first round, he got me down and really it was just like, I don't know how long it was, like 3 minutes of me just getting up on the cage and he just kind of held my back position there and he felt really heavy. Not really no damage done, but he just kind of controlled the position. And then the second round I thought was a lot closer. I landed some decent stuff, but I still, like I said, it wasn't really, the rhythm was off. And then the third round, I don't know, towards the second half, I figured I'm down in this fight. I just kind of got to throw something heavy. And I remember I kind of loaded up on overhand left and I just, he timed it nicely and took me down. But I just kind of had to take a risk there, I mean, just as I wasn't going to win a decision. It was one of those fights, man. It just didn't, things weren't flying, and I don't know. And I felt maybe that I was a bit, I didn't put much weight back on. Like I was actually probably in the best shape ever cardio wise. Like I felt my cardio was great for this fight, but like in the cage that night, I was only 145. And usually I bounce back heavier. Usually I'm like at least 48, 49 in that range. So I think I was a bit too light, but I mean, just things that just happen, and just didn't go my way that night,
Yeah, I could tell it was a frustrating performance for you more than anything. Like, obviously, you broke your arm, but that didn't really overall affect your performance. But when when Rafian had you down in that first round for like those 3 minutes, were you a little worried about him being on your back for so long, considering you did have a back injury before that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that before the fight, like, hopefully I don't get like, my back taken, like body triangles and like put that weight on, because that's like the worst thing. But I mean, it's a fight. Like, I'm not sitting there worrying about that. Like, I'll go till I'm dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously I don't want to get in that position, and it sucks to be in that position regardless. Right. So no, I just felt like he felt fucking like heavy. He felt really big. You know what I mean? He definitely bounced back. He was a big dude. His bantamweights are just getting bigger and bigger somehow. But yeah, he used his weight well. Like, he just kind of sat on the back, and every time I kind of broke the grip and started getting up, he just kind of sag his weight back down and have to work again. And a lot like what I do to people a lot of the time. You know what I mean? So it just sucked. Having to get there and just work to get out. And then I knew by the time I finally kind of did get a position out, the round was over, and I was like, hey, I lost this round. So it was just more frustrating than anything.
Yeah, I think that's deep down what, like after the fight, you knew that it wasn't the type of fight you wanted to put on. And, I heard you say you were sorry. Do you think that, not having Lyndon in the corner, because, you told us before he got COVID, had to be stuck in Canada. Do you think not having him in the corner kind of affected you a little bit, Josh?
Yeah, this whole camp, I mean, I had to stay in Alpha Male the whole camp, which is, it was great training partners, awesome, and that's why I was in such great shape and whatnot. But I didn't have any specific coaching done. You know what I mean? Like, we usually with Lyndon, like, we're always like, we're prepping, for my specific opponent, what he does. I know he's a southpaw, rangy, move to this side, learn some or land some combos that we think will work, and really just game plan and get in positions with my training partners where we're starting here and whatnot. So I didn't have any of that going into it, which kind of sucked. And then, yeah, not having him there definitely sucked. I mean, Alan came, my coach Alan, my original coach, and I'm so happy, like, and grateful he did. It was awesome, and I love having him in my corner. I really do. But yeah, it just we haven't worked together, on pads or in that in a long time. And he knows me, of course, and I'll listen to him, and he says something, I'll do it. But yeah, just not having, my coach as of late, that we have, accommodations and call signs and things like that. And Lyndon can help me definitely more on the ground than Alan can, right? Obviously Alan's more of the Muay Thai specialist, right? So, yeah, that definitely, it sucked, but it was just like, the position and the hand we were dealt, it was a shitty spot. But yeah, I'm definitely grateful though for Alan for stepping up, and I appreciate him so much.
Yeah, for sure. But you could definitely tell that Lyndon not there kind of affected you a bit, because you and him are like, peanut butter and jam. You just go together so well, and he knows what to say to you to motivate you or what adjustments to make. And just him not being there, you kind of felt a little bit of a void in your corner. And I guess, lastly on this fight is they kind of hyped this fight up on the card, like on the prelim card, saying, Josh Thompson was saying this should have been on the main card. And then after your fight, that they were kind of slagging your fight, saying very disappointing performance for both guys. Like, do you take anything with that with a grain of salt, I guess, now, Josh?
I mean, yeah, I wasn't happy with it. He won, so I guess he's happier than I am. You know what I mean? But yeah, it just maybe it was, I don't know, one of those fights where, like I said before, that we're stylistically we're very similar. So that maybe that, it kind of canceled each other out, and I mean, I kind of nullified the fight, and we kind of came a stalemate of sorts. And I don't know. It was just one of those fights where sometimes you put two guys together and it's a banger, and there's fireworks, and sometimes, two guys, the way they fight, it just it didn't play out like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I would, I definitely not happy with it. It was one of those fights, like I said, it just kind of sucked everywhere, and it just things weren't going well.
I guess the last thing about this fight is, what'd you learn about yourself in this fight? Because you learn about yourself, win, lose, or draw in these things, Josh. And what'd you learn about yourself after this Rafian Stotts fight from 2 weeks ago now?
You just dealing with adversity. I know I can, like, my mind is very, very strong. You know what I mean? Like, all the shit dealing up like leading up to this fight, like not being able to go home and not being able to train with my proper, actual team back home and my coaches. And then it was super, like we had 2 days that were super, super stressful. I thought we were going to have, like my wife thought like she was going to have to fly in and be there for me. Cause like, and then, we're talking about having coaches come, but then they weren't going to be there in time to actually help me weight cut because they have to get there a certain amount of time before. And yeah, it was just, there was a lot of stressful shit leading up to it, which sucked. And then in the fight, I just, after losing the first round, you could easily just look for a way out, you know what I mean? And just kind of like get out of there. But I don't do that. I'll go till I'm unconscious or the fight's over. So yeah, just dealing with that kind of shit. I mean, it sucks. It's not how I wanted it, obviously. But I mean, it's not like I lost some schlub, No. I'm fighting top-notch guys, and if things aren't going well, like I've had fights in the past where I fought lesser caliber guys and I felt like shit in there, but I still won, So this one, I just couldn't do it against this caliber of guy. That's all.
I guess one of the shining lights is you came into the fight ranked number 7 in bantamweight, and after the fight, you're still number 7 in bantamweight. So you didn't lose a ranking at all. So I don't know. I thought at least maybe you would have dropped, but hey, you stay the same. So that's I guess a positive for to come out of the
That's cool. I mean, you know how I feel about rankings, right?
Yeah.
And they seem to change them every show, right? So who knows? I mean, I don't look too much into that, but that's cool. Yeah, obviously I don't want to drop out of being in top contention of one of those guys, and I still don't think I am, but yeah, it's nice to see them not just thrown to the side and forgotten about.
Do you want to fight again, like as soon as you can once your arm heals up, or are you kind of just gonna get the body back together a little bit?
Yeah, like I thought, like at first I was like, no, I'm like, I want lots of time off and just enjoy, like more of the summer with the family and whatnot. But just because I've been away for so long, but as day by day, as I can't train, it starts to creep up on me, and I'm like, yeah, I want to get back in there and get back in the win column like I had going, you know what I mean? Of course, everybody wants that, but it just kind of depends, I guess, like how it goes and who they match me up with and whatnot, and we'll see how everything plays out.
Well, it was a big night of bantamweights on your card. Obviously, Sergio Pettis became the new bantamweight champion. Johnny Campbell looked fantastic in his Bellator debut, getting a stoppage in that card. So there's a lot of options for you now, Josh, still at least.
Yeah. I mean, the Sergio win in the belt. I thought Juan would win it. I didn't get to watch the fight after, unfortunately, but I seen kind of some of the highlights. But yeah, it's a big win for him, obviously. And yeah, the Campbell one was a big upset for sure, because as Henry Corrales is no joke. And I think maybe dropping to 35 really hurt him though, because he definitely looked like he was hurting to make the weight, and even in the cage, it didn't look like the Corrales at 145.
Yeah, because he was really pushing the pace and landing. Like Campbell's defense was protecting the shots with his face, if you know what I mean. And but he was able to absorb them and just put it together and get that finish in the second round. And I don't know. I think if you were to maybe get matched up with a Johnny Campbell, a guy that's got tons of experience, kind of the similar story like you traveled through the roads to get to Bellator, I think that'd be a fun fight if it's presented to you. I mean, good thing for Johnny Campbell in this fight, he kept his arms, fingers, and ears on his head, unlike his last fight where an ear was ripped off of his head back in Brazil. So that was a positive to see. No bodily parts were flown off his head in that performance against Corrales. But it's great to have you back, Josh. I'm glad you enjoyed the week off. And, in MMA, it never stops, because last weekend we had UFC 262 with the main event for the lightweight championship, which was vacant after Khabib Nurmagomedov retired. Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. What a fight, Josh. I mean, this fight was just a roller coaster of emotions, and kind of fitting in a way that mirrored Oliveira's career, where there's highs at the start, lows as, he got rocked in that fight, much like how, he went, on those winless streaks in the UFC, and then ultimate culmination as he's now the lightweight champion. Honestly, for me, this is my right now fight of the year. There was just so much drama, so much emotion in that fight, and both guys could have been finished at either time in the first round, and then Oliveira turned it up and gets the finish in the second round, like 19 seconds after round 2 starts.
Yeah, this was a good one, man. I'm a big Chandler fan. I was pulling for Chandler just because I like his style, like his story. But I'm very, very happy for a guy like Oliveira to win the belt, man. That guy's been around, paid his dues, super, super skilled, and seems to just be hitting his stride now. And like you said, in this game, when you're fighting top guys for years and years and years, man, it's very, very rare do you see guys just continually win and always win. Like you have guys like John Jones and Khabib, and that's like nobody really else right now that's facing the top competition always for years and years that doesn't suffer defeat at some time. So yeah, for him to I just seen a meme going around. It was like I forget what year to year it was, like he went 10-8, and then the last 2 years he was 8-0. You know what I mean? So he just, you learn from your losses, like we talked about, and this guy just continues to get better, and could have easily just kind of like went the other way and kind of like, just said fuck it and just continued to lose. And then he's one of those guys that you just kind of forget about, right? But stuck to it, and now look at him. Much like a Jan Blachowicz, very similar story. So that's awesome. And yeah, the fight was crazy, man. Chandler came out like he does, and I thought he was going to do it again, and I thought that pressure and that power and that athleticism, like he cracked him and hurt him. But you could see it like when Oliveira was on the ground, like he was actually like rolling punches on the ground, just trying to survive just enough time to get his wits about him. And then he got his back, or that might've been after, I can't remember. But yeah, it was a cool back and forth, crazy first round. And then, 10, 20 seconds or whatever into the second, beautiful, just nice left hook right on the chin, dropped him, and then followed up and finished him, man. So that was crazy.
I know. I mean, for Oliveira, like, he's the 6th guy in the history of Chandler's career to get a victory over him. I mean, look at the guys that Chandler's lost to, like Eddie Alvarez, Will Brooks twice, and then like the Pitbull, and then the weird ankle thing at Madison Square Garden against Brett Primus, which I don't know if it's so much on Brett Primus other than your ankle going out on you. Nonetheless, like, how about Charles Oliveira? Like, do you remember when Khabib retired and we were like, who should fight for the lightweight title? Like, we were hoping maybe Oliveira would be in the mix, but thought he's definitely going to be the odd man out. And then, luckily for Oliveira, like, Poirier takes the Conor rematch, goes for the money, and now Oliveira got the opportunity and came through. And I couldn't be more happy. Like, for a lightweight title fight, or a title fight in general, there was no real animosity. It was two guys that respected each other at the highest of the high level, and they brought it to the best of anyone's ability. And I think Oliveira now is in such a sweet spot because he's either going to face, the winner of Poirier-McGregor, so he's going to make probably the most money he's ever made after this July show, UC 264, and it's just a nice story. This guy still lives in the favelas, the ghettos of Brazil. Like, he's out there having a championship celebration earlier this week. I mean, it's great to see. And you don't get those stories often in MMA. Yeah,
man. That's what I mean. He's just like that, the worker, you know what I mean? Like stayed the course and just, he's a fighter, man. And wins, losses, and he just keeps going. Doesn't matter. And he's obviously been one of the best in the world for a long time, but now he is, you know what I mean? Yeah, the winner of Poirier and McGregor will be a huge fight for him, which is awesome. He deserves, and happy to see that. And yeah, and I think probably like him still living there is the reason why he's where he's at. You know what I mean? Because he didn't do the McGregor. You know what I mean? And let money kind of take over. And I mean, we'll see now. Hopefully not. We'll see if he, continues on the path and stays humble and whatnot. But I think he will. He just kind of seems like that guy. And he's been in it too long now, I think, to like, it's one thing where a guy shoots out of nowhere and gets super success early and then falls off. But yeah, he's been around the game so long where I think it's just he's just a fighter, man, and he's just on the top of the game right now.
What's crazy to me is he's at the post-fight press conference. He's talking about, I think it can go back to 145 too. It's like, no, you couldn't. You couldn't make the weight. Please, someone get busy here and say, you're the lightweight champion. Just stay at 155. It's a division that's working out for you. Obviously very well right now. You don't need to cut the extra 10 pounds and put your body through that. Where a division you couldn't even make the weight for anymore.
Yeah, that's just like the competitor. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I always say it too. I'm like, I think I can make 25 for sure, but like, and I probably could, but like, you do well at your weight class you're at, then just stay there. You know what I mean? Everybody always wants to kind of do the 2 division thing, and I get it. I totally get it. But like, yeah, you're the champ at lightweight now. You're newly crowned champ. You know, now just focus on that division.
In that first run, which was so competitive, and obviously Oliveira, he had the back of Chandler. I think Chandler showed he's got underrated ground game because 9 guys out of 10 would have probably been submitted in that circumstance with Oliveira having your back for that long.
Yeah.
And then Chandler comes out and he nearly finishes him. As you said, you thought he was going to get it done. I thought he was going to get it done. Do you think that's a 10-8 round, Josh?
No.
Okay, that's 2 judges had the fight scored round 1, 10-8 for Chandler. And I think, like, while Oliveira was almost finished, you can't take away from the work he did on the back.
Yeah.
Like, he was looking for submissions. He was active on the ground. I don't think that's a 10-8 round.
No, and I don't, and that's why I don't think they should have this style of. I mean, I don't even know what the style of judging is because
the 10-point must system, yes.
Well, yeah, but nobody knows what the hell they're looking for anyway. You know what I mean? Every show there's some crazy call, and it just seems like it's happening more and more often now. And it just that wasn't a 10-8 round. There's no way. What do you call a round where like a guy takes a shit kicking for 4 minutes and then almost finishes him, with 30 seconds left, but he survives? Like, what's that then? Is that a 10-7? You know what I mean? Like,
technically it would be a 10-7 under the rules.
Yeah, but like, come on. It's just, I don't know. I don't, they need to change something. I mean, I've told you my take on it. I think they should abolish rounds and have a 1 10-minute fight and then just judge it based on that. And if it's a draw, you can do the sudden death of pride style. But like, in my mind, I don't see a 10-8 there at all.
I don't either. I think, and that's the problem with, scoring in combat sports as a whole using this 10-point must system, is you remember the last 30 seconds more than the whole 3 minutes or 5 minutes as a whole. And we're not taking into credit the work that Oliveira did, because when he had the back pressure on Chandler, like, I was nervous because he was working for some submissions and nearly in there. And I just think with the 10-point must system in MMA, it doesn't take the ground control and the ground game, the mixed martial arts of it at all into account.
Yeah, I agree. And you can punches. I mean, of course they do more damage, or strikes, I should say, do more damage. But like, if you're just out grappling the shit of a guy for 4 minutes and you just, head mount to back to side to mount and just like kind of put on a clinic where if it was a grappling match, you'd be 32-0 on points. They don't take that in consideration that would just be a 10-9 round most likely in those judges' eyes, right? Because there was no real damage done as far as, punches or strikes. So yeah, you don't really know, it kind of seems to favor, if you're going to get a 10-8, it's most likely going to be on the feet, right?
Well, that's just how the rules are for it, pretty much. The number one thing they score on is damage. And if you do some damage, going for an arm bar or whatever, or obviously, ground and pound or what you do on the feet, that's going to lead more to it. But I don't know. It seems to be more of a situation with judges coming up each and every weekend with these UFC cards in particular. Mm-hmm. And when they went to Texas, obviously here, and Texas is a commission that, man, they need a complete overhaul. I don't know if you watched the Mike Grundy fight. He may have won one round. One judge scored the fight 30-27 for Grundy, and they actually had to ask him to leave because his scores was so preposterous.
That's I did catch that fight, and I did score one round for that guy. I don't really remember the whole fight, but yeah, it was. I wouldn't have gave him 30-27 though.
I wouldn't have given anyone 30-27 in that fight.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. How does one judge see it 30-27, the other one the opposite 30-27? You know what I mean? I've had fights like that in my career where it's like, one judge scores it 29-28 for him and then 30-27 for me. It's just like, how does, I don't understand what they're watching, what they're looking at, right? So that's the problem. It's been a problem forever, and it just continues to be, and it won't change unless some overhaul of all commissions or something like that happens, or if one commission does it and then everybody follows suit. It's not going to change. Well,
they asked Dana White at the post-fight press conference about do you not want to use, like, coming to Texas, they're such an older commission, they use their local judges a lot more, and like that one judge in particular who scored that fight 30-27 for Grundy, he'd only worked the UFC 248 pay-per-view in Houston before the pandemic, and then before that was like a fight night in Texas back in 2017. So you have such a wide span of you actually scoring fights. So someone asked Dana White, like, would you like to use like an all-around commission or judges for everything? Like, I think that may be a better option than judges from that haven't scored fights in technically like almost 4 years.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure. And there's also a lot of judges that never competed in mixed martial arts, and a lot of them are old former boxing judges, right?
Well, yeah.
So that, like, they have no idea what they're actually looking at. They'll look at punches and as the main, thing they're focusing on, and the rest is just kind of by the wayside. You could throw 60 leg kicks and fuck somebody's leg up, and this guy lands a hard right hand, and that judge will probably look at the right hand doing way more damage, right? So it just, I don't know. I always say, like, former fighters would be a great option because they can actually, they've had the experience. But then you also get into the biasness of, maybe training partners, maybe somebody you fought before, maybe a rival camp, right? So it's like, it's hard to, it's a weird situation. It's hard to kind of regulate.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to all have former fighters or people that have competed in MMA. I think if you understand the basis of it, and obviously there's tests, that command courses out there that you should have to pass. Yeah. But for some of these judges, like that 30-27 Grundy or Kai Kamaka the previous weekend losing a split decision where two scorecards I think were 30-27 and they went both ways. Like, I don't understand how that can be a thing. Yeah. Like, I'm still the proponent of the open rounds. Like, if you knew what the scores were potentially, I know they say they make for more boring fights and a fighter up 2 rounds can just, get on his bicycle and run away. But I think it's going to force that fighter down 2 rounds, or if it's tied, it's going to make it a much more competitive. I don't know. I'm always in favor of looking at other options. And if UFC or any promotion wanted to have like a set of judges for every card, I'd be okay with that. It's better than a judge that hasn't worked in 4 years almost sometimes. Yeah. Than him scoring and having no clue what he's doing.
Yeah, I guess it just sometimes whenever you go, it's up to their commission, right? So that just causes issues. And yeah, I'm down with the open scoring. I think that is if you're going to keep the 3 rounds or 5 rounds, then yeah, I think 100%. Like, that round's over, this puts red up or this puts blue up. You know what I mean? Just to show who won the round. Just because then your coaches can know. You're not guessing. Or like I said, Pride style 10-minute round. And the way they scored those ones back in the day too, it's they gave more points or whatever to how you finished rather than how you started. So it was more of an attest to like your conditioning and toughness as well as the actual fight itself, right? So I'm in favor of that. I would love it if they went to that kind of style, but I don't see them doing it.
No, I know they still do use that in Asia. Obviously, Ryzen uses it in one championship. They score the fight as a whole instead of they're like 3 5-minute rounds, but they base the whole fight scoring wise as a whole.
Oh, Is that right? Okay, cool. That's cool. I like that.
Which I think is better, and it's sometimes a little confusing when you're watching it and knowing how things are scored in North America, and the setup is the same kind of in North America for one with the cage, but they scored as a whole there. So I think that's an option as well. I'd love to see him do it, but I'm with you. Like, I don't see them doing it. But moving on, Josh, the co-main event, another big lightweight fight. Beneil Dariush, Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson made himself like the biggest star really of the week, where he dropped probably the best line of the year saying Dana White privilege about, whatever. He was the one that got the bonuses up to $75K. So shout out to Tony Ferguson. Yeah. If you really want anything done in the UFC, just call out Dana at a press conference. That seems to be the way to get things done. But Tony Ferguson, though, became a shell of himself in that fight, really. Like, got taken down at will by Beneil Dariush, got put in a heel hook in the second round that most people would have or probably should have tapped because Tony's leg was totally immobilized by the third round. And it was just Beneil just out grappling him and controlling him and getting the biggest win of his career. But, I mean, Tony's tough as heck, but he, to me right now, has gotten himself out of true title contention for a while at lightweight if he continues his career.
Yeah. I think there's no talk of title contention right now at all. I mean, if you lose three in a row, then it's a road back to build up, right? It's not like you lost one, then one win will put you back in there. Yeah, he just I don't know if it's age or miles on the body and the brain or both or just stylistically the matchups. He's fighting top guys always, right? Like I said, you could win three close fights in a row. You could lose three close fights in a row very easily, right, in this game. So, but they weren't close fights, which sucks. With the Gaethje one was a beating. This one was not a beating, but a very one-sided. Just kind of controlled the whole 3 rounds. And who's the other loss to?
Oh, it was Charles Oliveira.
Oliveira, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and that was very much like the Neil fight, but a little bit more action, a little bit more submission attempts and whatnot. And yeah, he controlled on the ground too. So it sucks, man. Yeah, I've never been a big Tony Ferguson fan, to be honest. But he's very funky, very awkward, and super, super tough. And very skilled, man. Like the guys, look at all the fights he's had with guys and look at how they look after they fight him, like just beat this shit out of them all, and just everybody he fights makes a bloody mess of. So, I do feel for the guy. It sucks to see that, especially when you go 12, 13 wins in a row, become the interim title holder. That whole Khabib fight, 5 times never went through. And then now, you find yourself on a 3-fight skid and just, not looking like you used to, like 2 years ago.
Do you think one of the issues that Ferguson has, because I saw him make a statement today, he's like, I'm now more determined than ever to get a win, is he's pushing himself too much? Like maybe take some time, refocus, try a change or a change of camp or someone new, because the strategy he's had the last 3 fights has been ineffective for him as of late.
Yeah, it all depends on his mind, right? And how he's thinking. Having the mindset like that, like being positive like that and whatnot, and saying, this motivates me more. It's a great mindset to have. And, a lot of people will say, I remember reading a book and this one golfer had lost 3 tours in a row or something like that. And he just was smiling and he couldn't wait to get to the course. Like, what are you smiling about? You're in such a rut. Why aren't you pissed off? And he's like, well, I'm bound to catch a break sooner or later. You know what I mean? So to have that mindset is a great thing. But yeah, I don't know, maybe some change would do good, or maybe, like you said, some time off to kind of rejuvenate the body, rejuvenate the mind, and make too much of anything is not a good thing, right? So taking a little step back, it kind of makes you hungry for it again. You know what I mean? So I think the right amount of balance, if he seems to be one of those guys that overtrains, what I mean? And just crazy, keep it in the red zone the whole time, pedal to the floor. I think maybe pulling it back a bit would definitely be a good thing for him. I know his age doesn't help. If he was a 27-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy, he could probably get away with taking some time, but I think he's 38 or something like that, right?
Yeah, he's getting getting close to the wrong side of 40.
Yeah. So, time is not on your side in that asset, but hopefully he does some type of change or some type of rejuvenation to kind of help him. And, obviously you want to go out not on a slump, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think someone needs to tell him, maybe take some time off, let your body heal. Like before the Oliveira fight, he was doing training all by himself. He said he was, for this fight against Darush, he was training with some of the guys when he was on the Ultimate Fighter, like Brock Lesnar's team and stuff like that. But maybe take, a couple weeks off, maybe take a month off. Like no one's expecting you to see you fight again or anything like that. And if they do, they want to see you at a better, mindset or something like that. Because when things went wrong in that fight against Darush, he had no answer or anything like that. And maybe he should have tapped as well, because he may have a compromised knee, because that was a nasty heel hook that Darush had on him. Then Darush said he heard a pop, and I don't doubt him on that, because that was really in. And those heel hooks and leg locks are always so tricky. But we should also focus on Darush. We talked about Oliveira being humble. I think Darush is the same. This is a guy that's honest with himself. He now beats Tony Ferguson, which is the biggest win of his career. But he knows he's not next in line or the guy after to get a title shot. He just knows he's in the mix. And I think that's really where all you want to be.
Yeah, I like him. I like that guy. You're for sure. He's not like he's not a hugely well-known guy. The MMA fans know him. The UFC fans might not. I mean, the casual fans may not. But yeah, and he doesn't really talk a lot of shit. He's pretty humble, quiet. Doesn't have like that. He's not like built like a superhero. He just kind of has that, we're at whatever bod. Looks he's in good shape, but he's not ripped up or anything like that. But he wins, and he's good. He's had some fights where he's a guy that's been on the receiving end too of some losses and had some ups and downs and been on the wrong side of some nasty knockouts. But he's been also laid out a couple of guys with some beautiful, spinning back fists and stuff like that. He's a guy that is definitely up there. It's the biggest win in his career for sure. And I'd like to see him fight another, top 5 guy, top 6 guy or somebody along those lines. And I think if he wins another big one, you could definitely put him in that mix for a title shot.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know who he goes in there with yet. Obviously, the dust is still settling, and he just had this win, so let him enjoy the moment. But he definitely had the most interesting call out of the night, calling out Elon Musk. He wants a safe car for he's got a baby on the way. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, Dariush, super nice guy, super humble guy, and it's kind of interesting that the MMA gods are rewarding the humble, nice guys in the sport.
I guess it doesn't work until it works. What I mean? If you for a long time, the whole. I guess it's been around forever, right? Obviously, the heels and the baby faces, right? But it kind of took a turn, I guess, when Conor came. You know what I mean? And it just kind of made it like explode. You had the Chaels, which was great. You had like people like that, but the Conor just kind of set it off in a different, hemisphere, and then a lot of people tried to follow suit, and you could tell the ones that were good at it and the ones that weren't, and the real ones and the fake ones. But yeah, finally you've seen some guys that are, just humble and putting in work, guys like Oliveira, guys like Dariush that are finally it's paying off a bit.
That it is. And the other fight on the pay-per-view to talk about the opener at featherweight, Shane Burgos, Edson Barboza. Yeah. What a fight. Like, I heard Barboza came in fight night at like around 170, which is what he would be around when he said he would be around that weight if he was at lightweight still. Like, that's insane. If you saw Barboza at the weigh-ins, he literally looked like you threw him in the dryer and he shrunk because
this is what I'm talking about, man. At 35, I remember when I was like back in 2012, I was like a big bantamweight. You know what I mean? I walk in the cage in the high 40s. You know what I mean? And I'd walk around high 40s, low 50s, and I was a big bantamweight. But now it's like these guys are just enormous. And I said to my wife, we were watching, I'm like, these guys are a weight class above me. I'm like, how is that possible? And I've seen Burgos. I know this fight was going to be amazing just because how tough he is and how both like the striking on both these guys are skill. And when he fought Emmett, and like I know how hard Josh hits, and he took it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is going to be good. But yeah, the size of these guys, dude, it's unreal. I don't know. I guess we always say cutting too much weight, it's detrimental and it's going to affect your performance, but you're seeing it here where it doesn't, right? And it pays off. I mean, it wasn't a lot of wrestling in this one, so it's hard to say if the conditioning would have held up if there was more wrestling and grappling. But yeah, these guys are cutting a shit ton of weight. Sometimes it works, man.
Yeah, I think there maybe need to be like you have to weigh an X amount of weight percentage wise going into the fight, because coming up at a featherweight bout when you're pretty much a welterweight, that's insane. But I mean, the fight was fantastic. Like, it was all on the feet. Barboza was, using nasty leg kicks that were so damaging. His shin was bleeding after the fact. Yeah. And both guys had their moments in the fight until it was a great combo, and with a right hand from Barboza that landed on the temple of Burgos. And then he was trying to push forward, and then all of a sudden his body stopped and he fell backwards. And I thought it was a great stoppage. Obviously, you can't let a guy like that where he kind of looked like when you lift too much weight, see those weightlifters lift too much weight and then they faint. But Burgos went straight to the hospital and doesn't seem to have any serious issues about that, but obviously a big suspension from the Texas Athletic Commission. But all in all, a great fight. But have you ever seen a injury like or a finish like that, Josh?
The one came to mind. I can't for the life of me think of who it was, but it was like that. It was kind of like a delayed. Daily Diaz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, and like they kind of broke off, and then he sat there, and then he just kind of did the whole. You know what I mean? So that was a kind of a delay. This was more. But yeah, I think you've seen Burgos get hit, and he's like such a tough bastard. Like, he's just going to keep going. But when your brain tells your body to stop, like nothing you can do about it, right? So I think after he got hit, he kind of took that step backwards, and his body couldn't control that weight distribution, and he just kept going backwards and backwards and backwards, and he couldn't control. And then you're not there, right? So it was a weird one for sure. But yeah, man. I mean, credit to Barboza, because I know that Burgos, man, he's a tough cat, and that was a great war.
It was a great fight to start the pay-per-view off, set the tone for what was going to be a solid night of fights, and good for Barboza. I had my doubts about him at 145. Obviously, if you can replenish to be 170, you're going to be fantastic in there. But he looks like he can be a solid guy at featherweight. I don't know if he's going to be a title contention guy, but he's someone that is going to be, he could be a gatekeeper or just a tough road to get to a title shot if you are up there against Edson Barboza. He's still got a lot of quality fights left in him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he's definitely, obviously not quite title fight yet, but like I definitely think he has the skills to be up there in that top mix, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, so that was pretty much UFC 262. I mean, it was nice to see the bonuses were 75.
Is that from here out on, or is that just that night?
Just this show. Thanks to Tony Ferguson.
Yeah. Of course, they couldn't continue that, but
no, exactly. But I mean, if you pressure Dana at like events or media things, maybe he'll make it a trend. I don't know, but yeah. So we had a nice set of bonuses for that. Christos Jagos won a performance of the night. Obviously, the main event did as well for fight of the night. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty solid show, and the trend of these pay-per-views with fans have been great. I mean, the fans add so much different energy. I mean, the U.S. is starting to open up a bit more. I mean, I just saw today Bellator 260 and 261. They're going to have fans at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah. They were talking about that at my fight, and they're saying potentially end of May or early June. So yeah, early June. I mean, I would love to go somewhere else and fight, just because I've been there twice now, and it's crazy. Like, I signed with Bellator, and these guys go all cool places: Hawaii, Tokyo, Paris, Ireland, and then where do I fight? My 3 fights: Connecticut, 2, Oklahoma, the other one. 2 of my huge bucket list destinations that I've always wanted to go to, right? So I would love it if they did some cool, if they went back to Europe, I'd love to get on one of those.
Well, I think you're going to probably have to wait at least a year before that. That's going to be the thing. I mean, part of the problem why you're still stuck at Mohegan Sun, I mean, the world went on fire. So not really your fault or Bellator's fault with a pandemic or anything like that, but getting fans in Mohegan Sun and getting fans at these events now, which seems to be the trend. Obviously, UFC and Dana said that they're not going to go to any state that is, unless they're fully open. Yeah. So that still leaves a lot of states to figure things out. But with how the vaccine rollout's been in the United States and trends going upward with their goal to be like at least one person vaccinated by the 4th of July, like you could see more these states get opened up. Like I know Illinois is in that ballpark as well. And I've seen other like sports leagues, the NFL's in that spot right now where they want to see what's the vaccinations going to work out, because they want to have fans at all their stadiums for football this season. So I'd expect more venues, but it's just great to see that kind of opening up in the US and the normalcy slowly getting its head up from under the covers.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm looking forward to when they actually have fans again, man. That'd be good. And then Mohegan Sun, like, yeah, it's a beautiful place, man. It's and the venue they have there too is awesome. Like one of the best, I think, for watching fights. So that would be good once they get fans in there. And yeah, good for them, man. Good, they're doing better than Canada's doing here. We're light years behind where they're at. So
we're on the come up, though.
We can only be on the come up.
We're on the come up.
You can't
Josh,
get any lower.
well, no, we couldn't. That was
You know?
that was a rough go there, where a lot of people had their doubts and whatnot. But we're I think we're trending in the right way finally. I think
Well,
I don't want to knock.
so.
I'll knock on wood.
They've said that many other times before to us, and then they just, whatever. But I'm hoping let's see it positive, and
Yeah, let's knock on wood.
yeah,
Something like that. But things are starting to open up, and fight nights for UFC are probably just going to be at the Apex. I mean, it makes more sense, anyways, and you save on costs, and you can have record profits at the end of every year, where you don't have to go everywhere around, even though that's their plan. But this weekend, though, we got your boy Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font. I mean, it's great to see Cody back after his sensational knockout last year. Font's coming off the biggest win of his career against Marlon Moraes, excuse me. Yeah.
Different.
So, yeah. Too many Marlins in the sport.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good one, man. This is a fight where I think if Cody fights disciplined, if he fights like he can and uses his speed, I can see him very well taking this fight. But he just has to stay disciplined. That's his biggest thing, I think, in this fight. If he gets too over aggressive, gets emotional, gets trying to hunt for that knockout a little bit too much, Font could, do some damage, definitely. So I think if he, like I said, stays the course, discipline, uses his speed, his footwork, I think that's his two biggest things against Font. I think he could definitely take this for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Font, though, because Font just looks so well in his last fight against Marlon. I think his footwork's there. I think he can hit the combos as well. And because, as you said, Cody does tend to look for the knockout, and that puts himself in bad spots. But obviously his last knockout, he wasn't looking for it. I shouldn't say looking for it. He just timed it perfectly, where, he caught Rafael with his, hands down as the horn was about to go at the end of the round. But part of me wants to see Font win because I think Font's a sensational guy, but I was still kind of hoping to see Cody at 125 in that run that was originally supposed to happen before he ended up getting hurt and pulling out of the Figueiredo fight.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, Font could give him some problems. And Font's also a rangier guy, a little longer reach, definitely for that weight class too. Compared to a Sunset was good, don't get me wrong, but the striking fundamentals, I think, especially in the boxing, a Font is much higher credentials, I think, than a Sunset. So is, Cody's got great boxing too. So the two together, I think, should make for an interesting match. And we'll see, maybe we'll see some wrestling. I think you'll see probably, Cody maybe mix it up a bit and utilize some takedowns. As you remember the fight with Marlon, Marlon took Font down, I think, right away. So you could see, that might be something Cody might want to venture into. But yeah, I think a win for Cody definitely puts him in that, up in that, top spot. Not, didn't say a title fight, but I think probably title eliminator. And then if he loses, it's going to be a step back, obviously, at 135 if he stays there. But if he does drop down to 25, maybe a number one contender fight there too. I don't think you're going to give him a title fight off of a loss, right? Even if you're going down a weight class. So he definitely has options though. So either way is good, but obviously he's going to want the win.
I mean, he definitely wants the win. I still could see him getting a title fight if he decided to go down to 125 after this Figueiredo Moreno fight, because while 125 is still building itself up, there's not a lot of guys with some sort of name value at 125. So we could just jump the line on the name value alone, though obviously you're going in there to fight. Your objective is to win. You're not just like, well, hopefully it works out for me. That wouldn't be the best thing. But I mean, this card on Saturday, it's got some solid fights, potentially a title eliminator at the women's strawweight, Carla Esparza versus Xiaonan Yan. Carla was technically supposed to get the fight against Zhang before, when apparently Rose didn't want the fight. We've heard that so many times. But if Carla wins, she could get herself right back in that mix for her being the original 115 champion.
Yeah. I mean, she's that girl that just kind of like, she's been there, like you said, at the top through the show, and she's just like, she's kind of like She's never known for her striking, definitely more wrestling is her strongest, and then her grappling and stuff. But she's just durable, tough, gritty, and is a tough fight for anybody because just you got to deal with that pressure and that pace for 3 rounds or 5 rounds. So yeah, she's always going to be up there, as one of the top people in that division.
Yeah, for sure. Be interesting what happens there. We have potentially the final fight at women's 145.
Yeah.
With Felicia Spencer against Norma Dumont. Jack Hermanson, Edmund Sabajian, which was supposed to be last weekend, but Hermanson's camp had some COVID, so they pushed it back a week. I don't think COVID goes away in a week, though. Nonetheless, so far, still going to have that. And I don't know if you know about this fighter, Josh, but Chris Barnett, who's a heavyweight, he's has maybe a round belly, but he has such great footwork, and he break dances. He's finally he's a durable journeyman. He's fought all over the world. He's fought here in Canada, out in Asia, South Korea. He's getting finally his UFC opportunity against Ben Rothwell. I'm just happy to see something like that where he's the third option, but so far he's going to go in there and hopefully have a great fight. If he gets a win, finally get to see the Beast Boy do some breakdancing.
Is he like that wrestler? Who's that big fat guy, the wrestler that does the worm?
Big E? Would you say Big E's fat?
No, not Big E. White guy.
Otis.
Otis, yeah, Otis. Yeah, is he kind of like that, or is he not like built like that? I don't know.
He's like that, only definitely a lot more durable because he's an MMA fighter, and he's got himself a 21-6 record as a heavyweight. So
really, wow. I mean, man, a heavyweight dude, it's a rarity in the world, right? If you're a heavyweight, and you're athletic and decent, and obviously has some skill set, you can do much bigger things, especially in Canada. Is he Canadian? You said he's Canadian?
No, he's an American. He's from Tampa, but he's fought here before in this country.
Okay. Before. Okay. Yeah. Well, good on him. He's 7 fights or whatever, and 21 wins. That's a good, man. So glad to see him get a shot.
If he gets a win in highlight fashion and does his breakdancing, the UFC will be all over him.
Oh,
This is a heavyweight that they can really market with a fun personality too.
Yeah, and especially a win over Rothwell. He's a big name, right? So tough first fight, definitely. Even Rothwell's a little older now, but still a tough fight for anybody. So, but yeah, that would be gold for them. A heavyweight that is durable and actually can move his feet and then also has some character. That's a big win.
Yeah, so that's on Saturday, and on Friday, Bellator, they're back for their final show of May. Cyborg, she's back against the always dangerous Leslie Smith. This is a rematch from their days at the UFC. That was a catchweight at 140. This is obviously 145. Obviously, this has to hopefully go well for Cyborg because there's all this talk down the line that, Kayla Harrison, she's a free agent with the PFL, and if Bellator can sign her once her contract's up, there's a huge marketable fight for both ladies.
Isn't she in the middle of a tournament, though?
She is, but they're talking at the end of this, she'll be a free agent.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has Cyborg as a favorite. I think, most likely, I think she's going to get the win. I mean, anything could happen, you know what I mean? But, if I'm putting any money on it, which I wouldn't in this fight, I'm going to pick Cyborg. I just don't see Leslie being able to really beat her anywhere. She's a tough girl, and she might be able to hang with her for a bit or even the whole thing. But I just don't see her getting the win. But hey, I mean, it's MMA, man. One little crack and it can finish things off, or one slip, or one leave your neck out. You know what I mean? So it's a fight. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm leaning Cyborg as well. I just think her pressure is just too much. The way she bum rushes these girls, it's just tough to get out of the starting blocks. Also, co-main event, Darren Caldwell back at 135.
Yeah, this is one I didn't think he'd come back down. To be honest, I thought he'd kind of stay at 45, but he's fighting a guy that also can't make bantamweight. He's fighting Leandro Higo, right? He's missed weight in his past, I think multiple times at bantamweight. So he better make it this one. But that's a good fight. That's they've fought before once already. Caldwell got the win. I think it was a guillotine, if I can remember right. But that's a good one, man. Obviously I'm excited to watch that one.
There's Fabian Edwards, Austin Vanderford. This is maybe the best test for Vanderford in Bellator. There's some sleeper good fights on this card. Brett Johns opens on the second fight against Danny Sabatella, who's a real talented fighter on the regional scene and got passed over on the Contender Series, wrestled too much. So Bellator picked him up, and I think it's a good pickup by Bellator to get more depth in your 135-pound division.
Yeah, and Johns is obviously a UFC vet who did well there. Good wrestling as well too. And yeah, he was. I think he originally was supposed to fight that Mateos Mathos or whatever.
Yeah.
His name is. And he's good. He's from the Pitbull camp, Brazilian guy. He fought Magomedov and had some good moments in that fight, but Magomedov's wrestling just kind of took over. So, but yeah, this guy Sabatello, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Danny Sabatello. Yeah,
Sabatello, Titan guy, right?
Yep, Titan guy, and fought on the Contender Series. Manhandled his opponent, but too much wrestling for Dana White's liking.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Of course, no, not enough punchy.
He wrestled.
So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to see. See how Johns does in his debut. But yeah, those another two guys that just make this division, that much deeper. I think they have a top 10. Yeah, they could easily do a top 20. In that division for sure. Yeah,
that division is definitely getting stacked. I mean, even Scott Coker's talking about potentially the next Grand Prix is the bantamweights getting. He did make a statement. He's thinking about it. It's just in the depth alone, as we've talked about. As you just said, could do a top 20 at 135 in Bellator with how deep it is. So yeah, maybe buckle yourself up for 2022's Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to wait that long. I hope they do it. I would love for them to do it, this year, but I highly doubt they'll do two in the same year with the light heavyweights going on. So if they were to do it, then yeah, it would probably start of 2022 probably.
You probably would have figured too, because I know Ryzen's doing a bantamweight tournament as well. I've talked about this before, but it's Japan only. And if the world wasn't in a pandemic, there definitely would have been some form of crossover. Because I know they want to get Horiguchi back in Bellator.
Yeah, that would have been cool if you did like the Bellator one and a Ryzen one, and then the winners kind of face each other in an overall.
Or you can have talent sprinkled in,
or you can send half your roster there, or send half here, and do a mix. That'd be cool too.
Send you to Japan.
Oh, dude, that's on the bucket list. I want to go there, man. I've never been.
It's not Oklahoma or Connecticut, so it's a win for you regardless.
It's more of a desirable destination.
Yeah. Well, I hopefully they end up doing that because, as you said, the division's so stacked, and like these Grand Prix are now they're working out better instead of a first inclination with the heavyweight one. Mm-hmm. This one has worked out, I think, greatly. With the light heavyweight one, and then as we're seeing with the featherweights as they're wrapping up. So more and you know what, that's their gimmick, right? Is using these Grand Prix to help push some talent. Like look at McKee right now, and hopefully 135 in 2022 can be the next Grand Prix. And I think Coker's got his head in the right direction just on the depth alone.
Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't. If you're going to do another Grand Prix, I think it has to be bantamweight. It's the deepest division in that whole company. You know what I mean? So I think it's a must if you're going to do another one.
Got to have like a play-in fight too, like the NBA is doing with the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs. There's got to be like a couple guys that are like on the bubble, and then you have like a play-in, like a wild card fight. Got to do that as well.
Yeah, or have like because there's most likely probably be an injury of some sort, and have two guys always fight around the same time, and then winner has moves into that fill-in spot where if somebody gets hurt, you're in. You know what I mean? Something like that.
As long as they keep the gimmick of if you win the fastest, like the beat the clock, and you get to pick your opponent, because that worked so much better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, right? Yeah.
I hope they do that again. But it's a busy weekend too of MMA. Invicta, they're back on Access TV and Fight Network in Canada, so new platform for them. MMA is always just so busy with what goes on right now. But yeah, it's good to see you back, Josh. And we'll be back again next week to break everything down that happens with the UFC, Bellator, and whatever craziness comes out of the news. But before I let you go, Josh, plug yourself out there on your Instagram where we can see your great memes.
At Gentleman J Hill, as always, my man. All
right, Josh. Well, thanks for coming back. Glad to see you're doing a lot better, and you've enjoyed the family, which is the most important thing. So,
yeah, man. Good to be back. I'm good. Yeah, happy to be back, man.
And until same bat time, same bat channel, we'll be back. And I should actually, before I let you go, everyone, if you want this show in audio form, we are now on Spotify and Apple. The links are in the description box. If you would like to subscribe, that would be great. And subscribe here because we do the show live and right at you first on our YouTube page. So with that, that'll do it for this week. Peace out and have a good rest of your week, everyone.